my own beliefs. And after the fun debate, I'd go somewhere and think, all right, I have this contradiction. Let me look at it carefully because something's got to go. I have two beliefs. They don't match each other. Something's got to go. Well, if you keep doing that, eventually the entire mythology of government disappears. It's just gone. And it's not. I didn't come to being anarchist is sort of the scary word for it. Voluntarist is the nicer sounding word for it. I didn't get to that point by deciding that human beings would do things better without a ruling class. I got there by realizing ruling classes can't be legitimate, no matter what. They can't have authority. Their commands can't be law. And without authority, they can't be government. It's a gang of thugs. I didn't come to basically for me, it didn't end up as a choice between which of these will work better. And the analogy I often use is today, I don't look at Christmas and say, well, let's see, should we do it with Santa Claus or without? There's not a choice. We don't have it. And that is the reality about government. It's not a choice of do we have it or don't we? We don't. It doesn't exist. It can't exist. The entire belief and all of the mythology surrounding it doesn't make any sense. And it conflicts with the moral code and the logic of everybody. And I don't care if you're talking Christians, Muslims, atheists, anything.
Well, let's not forget, Larken, and I've looked a lot into this over the last several months, but the word government, governmente, originally in Mid and Old English, means mind control. And some people will argue that the ment on the end is simply a suffix like employment or something like that. But the word govern or gubernare is to steer or control. So what other than the human mind is government meant to steer or control? So really, to claim that the ment or mente is simply a suffix and not ment or mente for Latin for mind is really a slap in the face, because no matter how you break it down, the word government in and of itself means mind control. Mind control, and it's perfectly labeled. Right, and if you look in the Oxford English Dictionary and you look at the descriptions of it, it says, control the behavior and, the religion and the actions of others and all of these different aspects. It is at face, slap in the face value for that matter, mind control. Yeah, and, but so many people will try and argue that suffix point of government rather than, governmente, but I always beg people to please provide me a single example where government is not used for mind control in the political sense, and they can't do it.
Right. And that's the thing. My first and most recent book, which sounds weird, but basically it's the first book I started 15 years ago, and it just came out, called The Most Dangerous Superstition. It's about the belief in authority, which mostly today shows up as the belief in government. Churches used to claim the right to rule people, but now mostly it's government.
I'm going to interrupt you really quickly because, the appeal to authority is a logical fallacy in and of itself, which, and that's why I wanted to have you on the show, because of the trivium. And the trivium, specifically in this order, is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And as you were doing earlier, you were removing the contradictions that you found in your own thought processes when you're debating other people. So you removed those contradictions, which is the logic aspect. And here you're presenting this dialectic, and logic is also known as the dialectic. And of course, you're using rhetoric to express what you've learned in that dialectic to others. So that's really the key of why I wanted you on the show. So here you're doing all of this work that's really founded in the trivium in and of itself, and the biggest one, like you were just saying, this appeal to authority fallacy of the government.
Right, and the fact that even all those people, because everybody today points at the current United States government and says, oh, look at the horrible things it's doing. People complain about different horrible things it's doing, depending on whether they're politically left or right or moderate or whatever they call themselves. But what they don't get, and the only way to get it is what you're talking about by logic and grammar and rhetoric, information. It's all mind control. Every bit of the power of government is mind control by making people hallucinate legitimacy and authority, which doesn't make sense and it contradicts itself. So yeah, what I do using logic and grammar is a huge one, because the grammar and rhetoric, they sort of tie together. But,
well, and you always have to remember, too, just to point this out for the audience, it does always need to be in a specific order, because grammar is like the building blocks of like an engine or a car or a house or whatever. Logic is that house put together, all the contradictions removed, and then rhetoric would be like the architect's manual or the owner's manual of how it all went together and explaining how it all works.
Right, and if you look at the mythology about government, through each of those steps, it falls apart and explodes all over the place. If you actually, if you start with literally stating reality, not the things we're taught to echo, consent of the governed and representative and law and yada, yada, yada. If you just step through it for, expressing concepts, language, making sure the concepts actually match and fit, logic, and then the sort of the final message, it doesn't, if you just take people back through the belief system they already have and try to get them to express it literally accurately without the euphemisms and the propaganda and all these weird sayings we're taught to memorize and repeat as if they make sense. You just try to get them, like we just heard in the back and forth of the alien, if you just try to get them to explain their own beliefs in a rational way, they explode all over the place. And that's really all I want to do. A lot of people, the debate is, you believe A and I believe B, and I want to bludgeon you over the head until you believe B. And that's not what I'm doing. Luckily, that's not what I have to do, because that never works. I'm telling people, you believe A and you believe B, and A and B are mutually logically exclusive. So please look at your own beliefs and pick one, because you can't have both. And anybody who still believes has both. Exactly. If you remove the contradictions, the mythology of authority and government evaporates. And then it's gone. And then you go, oh yeah, the world completely isn't what I always imagined it to be. In fact, I'm not what I imagined myself to be, because suddenly I don't have an owner. I don't have a master. It's just me. And that's, on the one hand, it's very freeing. And on the other hand, it's a little bit scary, because suddenly you have to be a responsible, sentient being instead of just a sheep in a pasture. But it's worth it, folks, to be actually rational and have a consistent